Okay, so we're moving on to two more, one more passion and one more grace. And you've had the others to work on, the pride with the grace of reverence, and greed, avarice with the grace of piety. So it will be fun to hear if you have anything to say about that at the end. So this time, the time that we're spending in these classes and to learn is a time of illumination and potential transformation for each of us. So it's an individual journey, and it's a journey of awakening, of learning about ourselves, learning how we're living, where we're living from. The journaling is a window into your soul. It is a way to facilitate a conversation with yourself and including divinity. It is a way to see patterns and see how we're doing. So it's another form of conversation with the divine, right? So grace is an ever present equally in all of our lives. Grace is neutral, loving, non-judgmental. Grace is not something that we understand and act out. We can try, but the life-changing power will be absent and we will be acting. Grace, when it comes, it moves us at the soulical level. We surrender out of ourselves and allow grace to be the divine life flowing into us and through us. So we surrender away from what we think we know. I thought I knew, but now I see. We kind of get looking into the window through the passions and then seeing, getting the revelation and asking for grace. We don't go give grace to people, right? We truncate grace by inserting our ego. Grace doesn't need us to give it away. Like if we can't activate it, we certainly cannot activate it for someone else, right? So grace is here for all of us, and we're learning the language, we're learning to recognize the passions, and we're learning to recognize the graces. And recognizing the grace, it's kind of like, we're coming into range, we're walking down the street and we come into hearing range of a pretty melody, and we walk into the melody and we walk through it and we continue past it without having to grab the instrument and play it, without having to sing out loud so everyone knows you know the song, and without dancing in the middle of it. We're experiencing it, but the ego is not involved. So grace is a life of its own. It is the divine nature coming on us, illuminating us. We must own the shadows and the graces for our own life. We must. That's why we're here, is to learn the shadows, what your particular shadows are, more prevalent than others. And we're also then recognizing the need for the grace, and then recognizing it when it comes to us, right? So we don't understand them with our mind. We know them as we know ourselves. And we are seeing the effects in our outcomes in our lives, right? So we're working with them. Part of our soul journey is to excavate our divine light from the shadows of the ego, from the overlays. Learning about the shadows should, on some level, activate compassion and empathy for ourselves and for those that have hurt us and those that have been hurt by us. It is a moving experience. It should give us hope and move us into gratitude, the application of grace in our lives. So grace moves us through revelation in the direction of transformation, to transform the way that we have been seeing or thinking from one way to another. These graces come to us and through us. And I'm stressing this a lot because in trying to understand these with the mind, these don't apply to me, or looking at other people and being like, ooh, they're in the shadow, right? And then I'm gonna go give them some grace. No, this is first for us to own, and understand in ourselves. And then as grace moves through us, it goes to somebody else. Otherwise, we're in our mind thinking we know what is happening and what's going on in someone else's life. So the graces are to be given away in service to others. And grace is always, always, always inspirational in its present. It is always healing, and it is always open-ended. There is never a how someone is going to resolve their situation. So it is grace moving through us, right? So our time of reflection is the time that we go in and we journal. We sit and we review our day, our couple days. How much does this shadow control my life? We look at our lives with observation, with a neutrality and a desire of wanting to know if there is this shadow active in our life and where. And then we are examining our lives with humility and in the light of truth, so that the truth can set us free from our ego and our ignorance of what is happening. So we be in reverence with our life and the lives of all other living things. So it's not a list to apply to others. It is an opportunity for us to have illumination. And in this light, we see the need for grace, and we call out for grace for ourselves, and we receive it through this experience. We can't give what we don't have. We can't give what we have not received. So this is a practice, like all spiritual practice, of allowing ourselves to be illuminated and transformed, and naturally people will receive from our lives, right? So that's just the little review of what we're doing and why. And we're learning why we do what we do and why we say what we say, right? So the dark passion number 3 today is luxury. And I'm not talking about fluffy spa towel bath sheets and satin pillowcases. It's luxury. It's self-entitlement. It's self-entitlement in the sensuality realm, or the realm of the senses, to say it another way. It is luxury. It's when we make choices, when we are fully aware that the consequences of these choices will harm another person, and sometimes even wanting to harm them. Put another way, when our motivation is that someone will suffer, no matter how big or small, because of our choices, and that we want them to suffer, So I'm sure everyone's like, oh my God, I don't have that. Okay, so let's look at gossip. Let's look at embellishing the truth, adding or subtracting details to make you look better or justified, or to make the other person less than. This is a deep and dark place to be. It has become so common and so natural in society that we just don't even notice it anymore. But if you've ever had or felt the stabbing pain of rejection that the other person may be experiencing and what it can cause them to do, you wouldn't do it. I mean, a person feeling the experience of that can cause them to want to die and take their own life. Facebook, bullying, look at the young people taking their own lives, right? Deliberately hurting another person, sacrificing the innocent to serve our egos, right? It's basically what it is. Being sorry doesn't fix it. This cannot be sucked back. This is something that you have to get into the grace with, right? And I know this is heavy. These get heavy. It's all about evolution, right? Moving on from that, self entitlement. I'm entitled to this and that in my life. I'm entitled to be spoken to in a certain way. I'm entitled to never get sick, to never have a struggle, to never have loved ones leave or die. I'm entitled to have electricity when I flip the switch. I'm entitled to have water when I turn on the tap. I'm entitled to have justice, to be treated fairly. Who do we think we are is really where we're at. We're not entitled to these things because we live in America or because we have money to pay for them. It is all really a gift. We're not entitled to any of that. We're here on this planet where we are growing and evolving, growing and evolving. That's our purpose here. We can also think that we're entitled to an easy life because we've suffered. We're attached to our suffering. I'm entitled because I have endured pain. I have had wrongs done to me. Because I've survived something, I'm entitled to heal easily. I'm entitled to heal because I've been working on it for 3 months. Should come because I'm doing something about it. We're entitled to heal on our own personal plan without any introspection or effort on our part. So entitlement is something that seeps in. It's part of our culture. It's part of how we've been taught to think. We just assume that all this is here for us. A lot of teaching out there teaches this type of entitlement subtly, like, if you do these steps, you're always going to be rich, or if you do these things, you're always going to be well, right? Or say this prayer this way and that will happen, and it doesn't happen, and it doesn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we come to expect, though, that we're pushing buttons and pulling levers, and life isn't like that. We're here as a spiritual divine beings inside of bodies that we get to take care of, and that we have to evolve and grow in how we are being and how we are thinking, oftentimes to open to receive the grace of healing, right? Because what happens is we get in a position of our words have power, and we're speaking negatively into our life. And on the other hand, we're trying to visualize ourselves to healing, two opposing forces, right? So it's good to understand how we're thinking. The entitlements are the lenses that we look through when we look at life. We're looking through these entitled ideas, and then it gives the impression back that things should not happen to us or around us. And why are they? So a version of the shadow of sensuality, because this is luxury is dealing with the sensuality realm, is is an idea of drifting in a thought form, of being tricked into thinking our senses are not good enough to trust, not feeling comfortable in our own bodies. By diminishing the form of our life in this way, it's at odds with our own sensuality, sexuality, the conflict of our physical form. This will cause us to diminish the sanctity of our own life. We don't see our bodies as valuable. We're not connected to our bodies. We're criticizing our bodies. We are detached from our physical form, and we're at odds with our sensuality and sexuality because of how we feel about our bodies. And we begin to not trust our senses, and we lose the sanctity of our own life in our own eyes, not in reality. So this is the shadow of the day. And understanding, we're getting in at subtler levels on some of these, of how we're thinking, how we are believing about ourselves. A lot of it is given to us through our culture, through the media, through teachings. It is given to us. We receive it. We don't think about it. We don't think about it. We don't even know we're doing it. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I disappointed about? Am I disappointed because I think I was entitled to something I didn't get, or something happened to me I think should never have happened to me? Is that what my issue is? Like, that's the line of questioning and looking at, what am I feeling and what am I thinking about, and understanding. So coming off of that and into the grace. So the opposite grace of luxury, the luxury of feeling that everything is we're entitled to, and that we can say and do anything without it meaning anything, is the grace of understanding. The grace of understanding lifts us beyond our small self, lifts us into a place where we can see globally and objectively. And it is an understanding about why stuff has happened to us. We're never going to understand it. It's not important or necessary in our life to understand why things have happened to us. The grace of understanding allows us to elevate up, to forgive offenses without needing to know why stuff happens. It allows us to see our lives as a small part of eternity, and to hold our lives and others in reverence, because we are all on a path. We're all on a path. The grace of understanding allows us to absorb the pain and return compassion. It allows us to see things as non-personal, because as we've learned, nothing is personal, right? Nothing is personal. The grace of understanding allows us to embrace the transformation that we are undergoing. When our ego rises up, and entitlement, pride, we want to gossip about somebody, we want to share something with, we know it's going to hurt them, and even we think it won't. We can call on grace and say, give me the grace to see clearly. Who am I in this world? Position me in my eyes. Reverence keeps us humble. We're asking for the understanding to see that who and what we really are. We are one speck of fairy dust on a planet in the universe that is enormous. So we need the grace to see ourselves clearly, and to understand that we are all part of a whole. And what whatever I do affects you, and whatever you do affects me, and that we can have compassion and empathy, for ourselves and each other, without a feeling like we're losing something or giving up something, right? So the dark shadow of of luxury, and then the deep grace of understanding. And understanding leads us, it is not understanding with our mind, it is understanding in our soul, at a soulical level. It's understanding that we're all part of a whole. It's understanding that, you know, uh, things happen, but we're okay. We're okay. I'm okay. I'm not gonna carry this pain forward. Like, it's not gonna benefit. I can let it go. Reverence for my life and everything that has happened in my life and everyone that has touched my life, and reverence for life itself, right? So understanding gives us, um, it takes us out of our small reasoning mind, and it takes us out of our need to grab, know, understand, and it puts us in a large expanse of seeing the horizon, and realizing that we are always loved, always cared for, and grace is always around us. So the struggling, the fighting, the clawing, the grabbing, all of that, we don't need it. We don't need it. And we need to really ground down into who and what we are, and begin to be in that. So in working through all of this stuff, you know, it can seem like a lot, or it can seem like it doesn't apply. Uh, this applies to everyone on some level or another, and at some point or other in your life, because these shadows are with us as well as the graces. We get to where we're living in grace, we're looking in the mirror, we're understanding what we see, and we're making a choice. We're making a choice. And it gets to be where we're right at the point of, you know, entitlement, understanding. What switch are you going to take? Like, what are you going to do? I'm going to do understanding, calling on grace. Sometimes you got to wait, right? Sometimes, and grace is always there, but we have to really get it sometimes. So then once we have had experiences, we are a useful tool. We're a useful tool. Otherwise, we're a bag of information. So those are the two for today. If anybody wants to comment, or has a thought about it, or would like some clarity, I'd be happy to expand on that.
Hi, Audrey, it's Claire. I have a
Mhm.
question. What is a really good way to break gossip if it starts in a group and you don't feel comfortable adding to it, and you're just not going to do that without, I guess, being, I don't know, because sometimes it could land because you're going to be different, right? Because you're not going to gossip with
Mhm.
others, and it's so common. So I was just curious how you have handled that, or like what is the most graceful way to handle that?
If it's a group of people that I'm in, but it's also a different, like a, like a room full of people, I just leave. I'll go talk to somebody else. Um,
Right.
if it's somebody wanting to gossip, uh, people don't do that with me anymore.
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
I would say, um, I have recently learned how hurtful this is to the person, and to myself and the person I'm talking about. So, um, that's why I'm not participating. And but you got, you know, you don't have to be preachy about it or anything, right? Just like, I, that's because that's why you're not participating. And, you know, the energy from this conversation is felt by that person. And I'm responsible for what I do to other people, so I can't participate. Of course, people are going to be like, oh my God, because it doesn't feel good to be doing something when you learn what's happening. But maybe, you know, you won't have to repeat it. They'll stop talking around you.
Got it. Yeah, it was the room full of people question, not a people
Yeah.
I hang out with question. So thank you.
Yeah. Tom says the graces are interchangeable with other shadows. Is that correct? Yes. Any grace will do in a pinch. They're balanced across from each other because when we're in a luxury, feeling the luxury, what's most going to be most effective against that is understanding. But you could even just be like, I need grace, period. Like, to help me not bend into this. So grace is all inclusive. This was taught this way because the um, the dark passion, uh, all the weapons work, but if you find the one that works the best, and because there's a need for us to understand the personality of grace, the various personalities, so that we learn the language, we learn the personality, and it's not a blanket. Like we will learn after. I really need understanding, because if I had understanding about my own place in this life and I wouldn't care about that. I wouldn't care about that. So yes. Grace's divine nature available to us to help us transform, to get illumination. When we're illuminated, we see that we need transformation, and then it gives us the power and the tool for transformation. And then we're you know, we're learning to walk and crawl here, so after a while it just becomes easier. It just becomes easier. and and then we learn, like, you know, what's our what seems to be the thread in our life of some of these passions. And, you know, where'd that come from, you know, teaching or something. Anybody else? Crickets. So you don't have to share specifics. That's I'm really good with that. But did anybody journal and find it helpful?
Hi, Audrey. This is Naya. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I recently just cleaned out my storage and I found my old journal from 2017 and I was reading it and I just found so much growth from that time period till now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm gonna get back into journaling.
Good. Great. It's just another window into our soul. And when we're writing, we're not canceling it out, which our reasoning mind doesn't really like to look at that stuff.
Yeah. I'm noticing that when you're paying attention, you really see a lot of the things that your thoughts automatically go to.
Yeah.
And, and this is so silly. I'll share this. It's very silly, but I was because I'm just recently kind of like quit all my jobs and I'm getting ready for my new life. And I'm at the store and the lady's asking me, I'm in checkout. She's like, "Hey, are you done for work today?" Because I had my work clothes on. I said, "Yes, I am." I was ashamed to say that I wasn't working. And when I walked out of the store, I said, I just realized I was ashamed. And of course, I didn't go back in and tell her, which would have been a bit odd. But I was like, oh my gosh, you just caught yourself feeling ashamed because part of what your perceived self-worth was all the work that you do. And it was so simple. When you're paying attention, you catch yourself with that.
Mhm.
And so I've been having a little bit of fun and some embarrassment with catching up with with thinking when I have a thought that doesn't feel like it belongs somewhere. I've been thinking, where'd that come from?
Mhm.
And I have done a tiny bit of writing in my journal, but um, it's interesting when you have the context of your thoughts and where they're coming from. You can say, "Hey, that was lame. This is how I really feel. I feel great. I'm not working. Yay!
Yeah.
I'm having fun. I'm really busy. Uh, Doesn't mean anything, but I'm really having fun right now." But I was like, oh my gosh, to say that would have felt really, it felt great to say it when I was in the parking lot, but to say it to her, it didn't seem right, right? It was my
Yeah.
old self
Well, because it
talking.
was
Yeah,
automatic.
it
Uh,
was so automatic.
yeah.
I was like, oh, like, yeah, But
Yeah.
but similar, a few similar things have happened that are just small thoughts like that, that are letting me know things are changing,
Mhm.
and where my old thoughts were should be different.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And the
So
beauty of all of that is the the rollout, because now when you look at life and other people, that filter is gone. So there's not looking at somebody and going, they're not working, or something like that,
well,
right?
exactly,
It changes
right?
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes every, and it's that subtle. Like the subtleties of these passions. Um, that's why Saint Teresa calls them reptiles that come in, sneak in the night. Yeah, you have to exterminate them out, because it's very subtle and it appeals to our mind. But so much of this is we've been taught. We've been taught like we never had a chance until now, right? So we've been taught that, we got to work for our value and work. And, um, I was talking with someone earlier, and they were saying, you know, um, so I want to ask something of the divine. Now, what do I need to do? And I was like, nothing. Like we get into thinking we have to go make stuff happen, right? But we're really here and now. We don't have to go actively do stuff all the time to prove our worth and value, right? Um, so great. I'm really excited that this is clicking, and just keep pressing on. We have the rest of them coming, but there is a common way of looking at it too. There's um, a way of being that we've been taught or that we've acquired that is hurtful to ourselves and others. And then the way of being that is our divine nature, and how to call on our divine nature, and how to um, allow that to be dominant, the dominant way of being in our life. I've been looking at these week after week, and it's it is really a shift out of shadow into light, out of shadow into light. And the the blockages in our life, and um, the effect of our life on other humans and the planet all shifts when we're in grace, when we're being in our divine nature, because grace comes over us and infuses us and transforms us so that we can be this way, so that we can be this way automatically, right? Automatically. So, and then grace begins to flow through into the lives of other people. So, and when you really want to know, like you really get in there and be like, show me my shadows, show me how I am thinking. It's clear. Spirit will show us. And, you know, I was like, wow, there's an undercurrent, or wow, there's a thought process. Like it's been very enlightening and very exciting, a very exciting process for me. So that said, I am going to, we'll do a meditation, but I'm also going to record the meditation to the sanctuary, and then going to have it be in the sanctuary for like 20 minutes and then ascend. And I'll have that available if you want to use a guided meditation to do some of this work. Or not, it's totally up to you. But I'm getting a lot of good feedback on this style right now with the work that we're doing. So I'll have that hopefully tomorrow. So anyway, any other comment? Okay, get comfortable. Get comfortable. Get comfortable. Tap into your breath, a rhythm of breathing.